The air erupted with chaos. From the gourd came out a dark swarm of bees, hundreds, thousands buzzing violently, their wings flashing gold in the lamplight. They filled the room in seconds, attacking without mercy. Nkem screamed first. Oluchi shrieked beside her, swatting wildly as the bees stung her arms, her neck, her scalp. They ran for the door, screaming as they burst into the night, their cries echoing through the compound. Nkem and Oluchi ran blindly through the night, their cries echoing like broken music. The bees chased them relentlessly, stinging, buzzing, circling. They tore through bushes, stumbled over roots, and clawed through the dark, desperate for a way out. They ran through bushes until their legs gave out. The bush seemed endless. The moon hid behind the clouds as if ashamed of their cries. When at last the buzzing faded and silence returned, they found themselves far from home, lost, bleeding and trembling. Nkem collapsed beside a small hut built with palm fronds and mud in the bush. "We'll stay here till morning," she managed to say, clutching her daughter's hand, and they staggered into the empty hut. Oluchi's eyes were swollen shut, her lips covered in welts. She burst into tears and cried profusely. Nkem pulled her close, tears streaming down her own face. Back in the village, Papa Uche sat awake on his bamboo chair, staring into the night. The lamp flickered beside him. Amarachi sat nearby, her eyes heavy with worry. "Papa, what could have happened to them?" she whispered. "Why did they scream so loudly, running out of the compound like that?" Papa Uche didn't respond. He simply stared on, praying silently that Nkem and Oluchi were fine. Moments later, they managed to go to sleep, hoping to go in search of Nkem and her mother by morning. By dawn, the first rays of sunlight broke through the trees as an old farmer named Okafor made his way to his farm. He had a yam plantation and a small hut in his farm where he rested whenever he needed to. That morning, he arrived with his 2 sons and his cart, hoping to harvest some yams. As they approached the farm, they were startled by a faint sound coming from inside the farm hut. "Who's there?" Okafor called out, gripping his cutlass. There was no response. So he walked towards the hut, pushed the door open, and froze. Nkem and Oluchi lay on the dusty floor. Their faces were puffed, their skin covered with angry red welts. He stepped closer, squinting, then gasped. "Nkem?" Her eyes flickered open faintly. "Pa Okafor, please, help us," she said weakly. Okafor dropped his cutlass at once and ran for his water gourd. "What happened to you?" She could barely speak. "Bees, thousands of them. We ran all night." Okafor shook his head in disbelief. "God of our fathers," he muttered, "stay still." He gave them water, tore a strip of cloth from his wrapper, and began to gently dab their wounds. "You're lucky to be alive," he said as he ordered his 2 sons to get the cart ready. "I'm taking you home," he told them. With the help of his sons, Nkem and Oluchi were moved into the cart. Moments later, the cart rolled into the village. Murmurs spread quickly. Everyone gasped when they saw who he was bringing. Papa Uche stepped out of his compound, Amarachi beside him. When he saw them, his heart clenched. Nkem and Oluchi looked terrible, their faces swollen, their arms covered in welts and bruises. They could barely move. "What happened?" he asked quietly as Okafor explained. They were found in my farm hut, Uche, the old man said. Barely breathing, bees stung them all over. They said they ran through the night. Without hesitation, Amarachi ran into the house to fetch mats and water. Bring them inside quickly, Papa Uche said firmly. By evening, the compound had fallen silent again. The village medicine man, Dibia Nuok, had been called. He mixed herbs in a clay bowl, whispering softly as he ground them. He applied the green paste gently to their faces and arms. Nkem winced but said nothing. When he was done, Amarachi brought food-warm yam porridge and palm nut soup. She placed the bowl beside them and they ate hurriedly. The treatment continued for 3 days, and all through these days, Amarachi treated them with quiet compassion. She ensured they were well fed and cared for, not minding the ill treatment Nkem had meted on her in the past. And every night she would make sure they ate before sleeping. When they were strong enough, Papa Uche called them one evening and asked gently, "Nkem," he said, "tell me the truth. What happened to you two that night that you ran out of the compound screaming?" Nkem's eyes darted quickly to the ground. It was just bad luck," she stammered. "I don't know how, but some strange bees found their way into my hut and attacked." Papa Uche studied her face, his expression calm but unreadable. He knew she was lying, but he didn't press further. Life was gradually beginning to return to its normal routine when Nkem suddenly began to have very strange nightmares. That night, after everyone had gone to bed and the lamps had burned low, Nkem tossed restlessly on her bamboo bed until she dozed off. Then she found herself walking alone through a strange, endless desert. The sky was pale and colourless. The sand beneath her feet was cold, though the sun shone fiercely above. There was no wind, no sound, just silence so heavy it pressed against her ears. She walked for what felt like hours, her throat dry, her wrapper flapping against her legs. Then, suddenly, she saw something ahead, a woman, standing still in the middle of the desert path. At first, she thought it was just another traveller, but as she drew closer, unease crept up her spine. The woman stood with her back turned, motionless, her head slightly tilted, as if listening. Nkem stopped a few feet away. "Who are you?" she called out. "Why are you standing in my way?" There was no answer. She took another step. I said, "Who are you?" Her voice trembled slightly now. Still silence. "Why are you blocking my path? Do you not hear me?" Then, slowly, terribly slowly, the woman began to turn. She stood, facing Nkem, staring at her. Nkem froze. The woman looked familiar. She immediately recognized her. It was Ngozi, Amarachi's mother, her late co-wife. Nkem gasped and stumbled backward. No, it can't be you. You're dead." Ngozi didn't speak. She only stared, her lips curling into a sad, knowing smile. Nkem screamed. The sound tore through the silence, and she woke up, drenched in sweat, her breath ragged, her hands trembling. That was the beginning of the nightmares. The next night, it returned different, but worse. This time, Nkem found herself standing at the edge of a river. The water was dark, and the air smelled of rain and sorrow. From across the river, she saw Ngozi again, kneeling by the water, washing something red that looked like cloth. Nkem's throat tightened. "Ngozi!" she called out. Ngozi didn't look up. She kept scrubbing the red fabric, her movements slow and deliberate. The river around her rippled and turned darker. "Stop that!" Nkem shouted, taking a step closer. "Why won't you leave me alone?" Then Ngozi finally looked up. Her eyes glowed faintly, and in her hands wasn't just cloth, it was blood-soaked fabric. Her lips parted slowly, and though her voice was calm, it chilled Nkem to the bone. "You know exactly why I am haunting you." The river began to rise violently, waves splashing toward her. Nkem screamed again and woke up shaking, her wrapper soaked in sweat. She sat up, holding her head in her hands, but it didn't end there. The third dream came 1 week later, and it was the worst. She found herself back in the desert again. This time, Ngozi was standing right in front of her, holding a long cane in her hand. Nkem tried to run, but her feet sank deep into the sand, heavy as stone. Ngozi's voice echoed all around her. "You took my peace, you broke my home. Now feel my pain." Before Nkem could answer, Ngozi raised the cane and struck her. Once, twice, again and again. Nkem screamed, covering her face, trying to shield herself, but the strokes fell mercilessly, burning like fire across her back and arms. "Stop! Ngozi, please! I'm sorry!" she cried. "I didn't mean to! Please!" But Ngozi's face remained cold. "Confess," she said. "Confess, or this will never end." With one final strike, Nkem fell to the ground and jolted awake with a sharp cry. Oluchi, who was spending the night with her mother, jumped up from beside her. "Mama, what is it?" Nkem was trembling violently, clutching her wrapper, her eyes wild. She could barely speak. Oluchi gasped as she lit the lamp and froze. Her mother's arms and back were covered in fresh red marks, as if she had been whipped by invisible hands. "Mama, who did this to you?" Nkem shook her head, tears spilling down her cheeks. "It was a dream." Oluchi's heart pounded. "Mama, this is not ordinary. You need to tell me what's going on." But Nkem only buried her face in her palms. "There's nothing to tell," she muttered. "They are just dreams." The next morning, as the sun rose, Oluchi sat quietly on the wooden bench outside, her mind heavy with fear. "Mama," she whispered, "I have been having dreams too. The same exact dream all the time." Oluchi's voice trembled. "The first time I saw a woman, she was standing by a mango tree, wearing white. She didn't tell me her name. She told me to tell you to confess. She said if you didn't, I would be cursed forever." Nkem's face went pale. "That's nonsense," she snapped, her voice cracking. "Dreams are dreams. There's nothing to confess." Oluchi looked at her mother closely. "Then why are you shaking?" Nkem turned away, clutching her wrapper tightly. "Go inside, Oluchi. Don't let these foolish dreams disturb you." Collars, but as Oluchi stepped away, Nkem's hands trembled even harder. She could still hear Ngozi's voice echoing softly in her head. 3 days later, Nkem was washing a calabash by the backyard when the air around her changed. The wind that blew was hot and dry, though the sky was clear. Then came a whisper, soft, cold, familiar. "You will never rest, Nkem." She froze, the calabash slipping from her hand. Who is there?" Silence. Then, from behind the mango tree, a woman stepped out. It was Ngozi. Not a shadow, not a dream. She stood there in full daylight, wearing the same white wrapper she'd been buried in, holding a long cane, her eyes deep and sad, but burning with power. Nkem staggered backward, her knees weakening. "Ngozi? No, you're dead. You're dead." Ngozi said nothing. She raised the cane in her hand. Swish! The first stroke landed across Nkem's arm. She screamed, clutching it. Another landed on her back. Then another. Ngozi continued to whip her, and Nkem began to run. She ran into her hut and locked herself up, thinking she had escaped. She turned to sit on her bed, only to find Ngozi standing there. Without a word, she began to strike her again. "Stop, please," Nkem cried, shielding herself. "Forgive me. I'll confess, please. Stop flogging me." She turned, opened the hut, and ran out, screaming through the compound gate. But Ngozi followed, unseen by others, striking her again and again. Some villagers turned as Nkem tore through the compound, yelling and waving her hands as if fighting the air. "Stop! Ngozi, stop!" she cried. Some of them ran into the compound to know what the noise was all about. Nkem ran towards her husband's hut and found him seated with Amarachi and Oluchi in front of the hut. They jumped to their feet. "Nkem, what is it?" Papa Uche asked, rushing forward. But Nkem fell to her knees before him, screaming, "Tell her to stop! Please, tell Ngozi to stop flogging me!" I'll confess everything." Amarachi's eyes widened. "Mama Nkem, there's no one here." Oluchi trembled. "Mama, who are you talking to?" Nkem's voice cracked. "Can't you see her? She's standing there with a cane." Papa Uche turned slowly. The space was empty. Only the wind stirred the leaves. He looked back at her, his voice low. "Ngozi is gone, Nkem. She's been gone these many years." Nkem stared wildly around, then burst into tears. "I did it! I killed her! I killed Ngozi!" The compound fell silent. Even the birds seemed to stop singing. By this time, more villagers had gathered and everyone was shocked to their bone. Papa Uche's face hardened. "What did you say?" Nkem's lips quivered as words poured out like poison released. "The night she died, I wasn't here. You remember I had gone to my mother's village, right? I visited a witch doctor there, a woman feared by all. I told her many terrible things about Ngozi and asked her to take her out of the way permanently. She gave me a charm. She told me to call Ngozi's name 3 times under the moon and strike the ground with a broom, saying her heart should stop." Her voice broke. "I did it, Uche. I struck the ground 3 times, and that same night she screamed in her room and died." Amarachi gasped, covering her mouth as tears began to stream down her cheeks. She couldn't believe her ears. Papa Uche took a step back, grief flooding his face. You killed my wife?" Nkem nodded, trembling. "And that's not all." She swallowed hard, her voice shaking. 4 years later, when you fell ill, that too was me. I thought that after Ngozi died, you would transfer all the love and attention to me, but I was wrong. Instead, you mourned her for months. You hardly even touched me. You instead transferred all the love to Amarachi. You even showed her more love than you did to my own daughter, Oluchi. I couldn't bear it anymore, so I went back to the same witch. I told her I wanted to have you under my control forever. So she gave me a powdery substance. told me to mix it in your food for 7 days and call out your spirit each midnight. She said it would put you in a position where you would depend on me for everything. I was happy, but I didn't know it was going to make you paralyzed. When you became sick and bedridden, I went back to the woman, but she sent me away, saying she did exactly what I asked of her. Please forgive me. I am sorry, Nkem concluded. Amarachi collapsed to her knees, weeping uncontrollably. Oluchi hid her face in shame, sobbing. By this time, news had gone round the village that Nkem was confessing her evil deeds. Papa Uche's compound was filled with a large crowd, everyone too shocked to say anything. Papa Uche stood frozen, his mouth open in disbelief, his hands trembled as he whispered, "So all these years, my pain, my suffering, my wife's death." Nkem cried harder. "It's my fault, all of it. I was blind with envy. The way you loved and paid attention to Ngozi always burned my heart. You spent more nights in her hut, ate her food with joy, laughed with her, and treated her like she was your only wife. You made me feel unwanted. I thought taking her out of the way would make you entirely mine. I thought I would be happy again. That was why I did what I did." She raised her face to the sky, screaming, "Forgive me, Ngozi, forgive me." For a moment, after Nkem's confession, the compound fell into a deathly silence. The only sound was her sobbing and the faint rustle of wind through the mango tree. Then, murmurs began to rise, quiet at first, then louder. "She killed Ngozi? She made Papa Uche paralyzed? Ah, what kind of heart is this?" Anger swept through the crowd of villagers. The young men clenched their fists, muttering curses. "Wicked woman," one shouted. "Let her face the king," another yelled. Before Papa Uche could speak, they surged forward. 2 of the youths grabbed Nkem by the arms. She didn't resist, her head hung low, tears streaming freely. "Please, don't hurt her," Oluchi pleaded, her voice trembling. But the youths ignored her, dragging Nkem toward the palace. Papa Uche remained seated, numb. His chest heaved heavily, his face pale. The elders beside him, Pa Okoro and Elder Nwafor, tried to calm him. "Uche, take heart," Elder Okoro said softly. "The gods have revealed the truth. Do not destroy yourself with grief." But Papa Uche's eyes were distant. He muttered to himself, All this started from my own people." He turned slowly to the elders, his voice low and pained. "You remember, don't you, when Ngozi and I had no child for 8 years? It was my family who forced me to marry again. They said a man without children was like a tree without roots. They pushed me to take Nkem, though I told them Ngozi was the woman my heart chose." He took a deep breath, his voice breaking. "And just when I married Nkem, Ngozi became pregnant with Amarachi. I didn't tell anyone, but I loved Ngozi more. Yes, because she stood by me when I was nothing. She worked with me in the farm, fed me with her hands, prayed for me when the world turned its back. How could I not love her?" He buried his face in his palms. "Yet I tried to treat them both as wives. I never knew Nkem was this jealous, though I saw how she maltreated Amarachi when I was ill. She didn't even care for me like a wife should. But I never knew she could be this evil." Amarachi sobbed uncontrollably, kneeling by her father's side. Oluchi sat apart, her face in her hands, weeping silently. Moments later, they all moved to the palace. When they got there, half the village had gathered. The guards held Nkem firmly by the arms. The king, Eze Chukudi, sat in his carved wooden chair, his face grave. "Woman," he said, his deep voice echoing through the courtyard, "is it true what these people say? That you killed Ngozi and bewitched your husband?" Nkem fell to her knees, shaking. "It's true, my king," she whispered. "The spirit of Ngozi torments me day and night. I am guilty." Gasps rippled through the crowd. The king's eyes darkened. "You took life and brought years of sorrow to this household. Your envy has stained the peace of our land." Izanetan, he struck his royal staff on the ground. "By the gods of Oguta, I hereby banish you, Nkem, daughter of Ezeudo, from this village forever. You shall never return to this village again." After the decree, the guards pulled her to her feet. The crowd murmured, some spitting in disgust, others shaking their heads in pity. As they led her away through the crowd, Oluchi broke free and ran after her mother. "Mama!" she screamed, tears streaming down her face. She threw her arms around Nkem, crying bitterly. "Please don't leave me. Mama, please." Nkem, already weak, held her daughter tightly, sobbing. "Forgive me, my child. I've brought shame upon you. Don't end up like me, Oluchi. Be kind, be better than me." The guards gently pried Oluchi's hands away. She fell to her knees as they led Nkem toward the boundary path. The sun was setting now, painting the sky red like the color of guilt. Oluchi's cries echoed through the village as her mother disappeared into the forest trail. Amarachi ran to her and hugged her tightly. Both girls wept together, their tears falling onto the dusty ground. Behind them, Papa Uche stood still, his face wet with silent tears. The next morning dawned quiet over Oguta village. The sky was pale, the wind gentle, but inside Papa Uche's compound, silence still hung heavy like a shadow that refused to lift. Oluchi sat quietly in one corner, her face swollen from crying all night. Her mother's voice still echoed in her ears, and the memory of that final hug tore at her heart. She hadn't eaten. She hadn't spoken. Papa Uche sat beneath the udala tree, staring blankly at the ground. Amarachi came out of the kitchen slowly, her eyes red but calm. She looked at her father, then at Oluchi. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then Oluchi rose to her feet, trembling. "Papa," she whispered, barely audible. He looked up slowly. "Papa, please," she said, falling to her knees. "Don't hate me for what Mama did. I didn't know anything. I swear I didn't. I would never hurt anyone." Her tears flowed freely now. "Please don't send me away like her. Please don't let the village hate me." Amarachi's heart broke at the sight of her half-sister kneeling. She walked over quietly, knelt beside her, and took her hand. "Oluchi," she said softly, "you are not your mother. She made her choice, and she has faced the consequence. You don't deserve punishment for a sin you didn't commit." Oluchi shook her head, sobbing. "But Mama killed your mother. Your real mother. How can you forgive me?" Amarachi's eyes filled with tears. "Because if I don't, her spirit will never rest, and neither will ours." She took a deep breath. "My mother was a woman of peace. She would want me to forgive." Oluchi clung to her, weeping into her shoulder. Papa Uche slowly rose from his chair and walked toward them. His steps were heavy, his voice low and tired. "My daughters," he said softly, "this house has seen enough sorrow. From now on, we will not speak of hatred again. Your mother's deeds have brought pain, but they've also taught us something that jealousy destroys faster than poison." He looked at both girls, tears in his eyes. "You are all I have left. Amarachi, Oluchi, promise me you will live in peace, love one another, and rebuild this family." Aiding freed, both girls nodded through their tears. Amarachi wiped Oluchi's face gently. "We will, Papa." Later that afternoon, Papa Uche gathered both daughters, and together they walked to Ngozi's grave. They knelt before the grave. Papa Uche spoke first, his voice shaking. "Ngozi," he said quietly, "the truth has come out, and your spirit has been vindicated. The woman who wronged you has paid her price. But I beg you, my dear wife, forgive us all. Forgive Nkem. Forgive this family. Let your spirit rest." Amarachi bowed her head, tears slipping down her cheeks. "Mama, please forgive Oluchi," she whispered. "She is innocent. She has lost her mother too. Let her live in peace." Oluchi pressed her hands together, crying softly. "I'm sorry for what Mama did. Please, let your spirit not be angry with me. I'll always remember you as my mother too." The wind blew softly through the trees, rustling the leaves above them. For a moment, the three of them felt something, a warm, gentle breeze brushing their faces, as if a hand had touched them in blessing. Papa Uche closed his eyes. "She has heard us," he murmured. "Let peace return to this house." They stayed there for a while, in silence, then rose slowly and walked back home together. Days turned into weeks, and the sorrow began to fade. Papa Uche returned to his farm. Their house rang with quiet peace again. Amarachi built a small wooden shrine beside the forest path, not far from where she first met the mysterious old woman. Each morning, she would lay flowers there and whisper a short prayer of gratitude. "Thank you for teaching me that kindness never dies," she would say. As the sun set one evening, Papa Uche sat outside watching his two daughters laugh together. A faint smile spread across his face. "The gods have taken away sorrow," he said quietly, "and given us peace again." Thank you for watching. If you were touched by this story, please like, share, and leave your thoughts in the comment section below. And don't forget, stay tuned for more powerful African stories that will touch your heart and teach life's greatest lessons.